this is Cheri at djcinder.blogspot.com, and today I have a card of encouragement that I want to make. Now, I pulled out a bunch of old supplies. There's nothing new here. These are just fun things that I found in my stash to make this, and I've already done some prep work so we can just pop right in and do the card. I've not done a card like this in quite some time. So I'm kind of excited to feel like I have a few moments to sit down and do that. So let me show you what we're using. We're starting with this paper pad. It's a 6x6 pad by We Are Memory Keepers, and it's called Antique Chic. And I have chosen a few papers out of this pad for this project. Of course, I need my scissors. I'll put that aside. I have chosen a Colonial White from Close to My Heart as a card base, as well as some of that the paper that I'm going to be stamping on, and then the envelope. So that is, I'm just going to set that aside because that's the envelope, and I want to show that to you in a minute. I'm going to be using this old Juniper ink from Close to My Heart, and I'm so glad that they changed the way their packaging is because I forgot how hard it was to open those, but that's all prepped and ready to go. And then the stamp set that I have chosen is a retired stamp set from Close to My Heart called Look to the Light. Again, that is retired. And then I'm going to set the stamps aside. I have some 3 Girl Jam ribbon. Again, this is an older piece of ribbon. These were hand-dyed ribbons. This company is no longer making ribbon, but it's one that I have quite a stash of from the years that I used that. So we're going to be using that, and then we're just going to hop right in. I also grabbed from Spellbinders, I grabbed one of my dies, and I forgot the name of it. It's the Classic Scalloped Ovals Spellbinders die, and I cut this piece from that, and that's a piece that we're going to be stamping on. So I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to do our stamping to start with. So I have my oval here, and I am going to stamp this scripture verse. It says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Psalm 46. Well, I'll have to read it after I get it out because I can't read the clear. This is just a card of encouragement for someone who's having some rough things right now, and so I just wanted to give that to her as an encouragement. So I am going to just ink up my stamp, tap it up and ink it up, and it's been quite a while since I used this stamp. I'm going to set aside and grab a baby wipe because I, of course, got ink on my block, and I probably should have grabbed out a smaller block, but I was working on another project, and so I didn't want to get out another block, so I just grabbed this larger block. So I'm going to go back over and tap it again. So I want to make sure I get it really well inked without getting ink on my block. This block is actually stained from ink, which means I didn't clean my stamp block well. So I'm just going to kind of center it here over the top. There's a bit of a glare coming down from my light, so it's kind of hard for me to see. But it's just that nice image, Psalm 46:1. So I'm just going to take my stamp, my little baby wipe off my stamp, close up my pad so it doesn't dry. And if you're familiar with Close to My Heart, you know how old this is because I haven't done pads like this for quite some time, but it's still inking up well. So I'm going to use that in the center here, but that looks kind of plain without it. So what I have done is that's where I want to use this ribbon. So before we put the outside of the card together, I want to show you the inside of the card because I've already prepped that. And I just took a piece of the paper. It was like a chevron type, or not a chevron, a houndstooth type figure, and I cut it to 5 3/8 by 4 1/8 so that there's just a narrow bit of the white showing. And then I took another piece of paper, and I didn't even measure it. I just cut it to fit in the middle, and this is where I'll write my message. So that's the inside of that. So what I'm going to do is I want this shadowed part to be on the bottom of the paper. So we're going to take this ribbon, I'm going to pull this up, we're going to come alongside here, and I'm pretty generous, especially as long as it's been since I've really played with this ribbon and tied a bow. I could do one of two things. I could either tie a bow here or I could tie a knot, and quite frankly it's going to depend on which one turns out best on which one I do. So let's just kind of play with it a little bit. Apparently I've forgotten how to tie a bow. We'll turn this around, twist it, and pull it through. Now remember, crinkle ribbon back when it was popular, and maybe it still is, I just haven't seen anything lately, but it's designed to be wrinkly. So I like the rugged look of that, and I can tell by looking at it that it is off-centered, it's not level. So I want to make sure that it's where I want it to be before I put it down on the card. And then this is going to go over the top of it like that. So I think I still want to come over a little bit more this way, just so that bow's barely on it, so I can pop that right there. And that just gives it that little extra bit. So now that we have this ready, I'm ready to adhere my card to the base. Now again, I just wanted a really narrow bit of border from that colonial white cardstock base, and so I am actually cutting it also at 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, so that there'll just be a scant 1/16 of an inch around it. Now I want to be really generous with my adhesive, because with that extra ribbon on there, it's going to tend to not really want to stay down to the card base. So I'm going to put lots of adhesive to make sure that it adheres. Now I'm going to just move this closer to me, which may take it off the camera a little bit, because especially as narrow of a margin as I have going around, I need to be able to see it, to center it the best that I can. It's a tad bit off, but I think it's going to be fine. So we've got that stuck on. And so I want to really press on that, make sure it's adhered. And then I have no adhesive here, and that's exactly how I want it. Now to finish off the outside of this card, what I'm going to do is I am going to find, and I should have pulled this out, but I forgot. I am going to find some foam adhesive. And this is where I'm very thankful for the desk that I have, because I have a lot of this stuff right at my fingertips. This is a new foam adhesive brand that I hadn't tried. I wanted a pretty good size roll of it. And this is the Front Porch Treasure brand. And so what I'm going to do with it, it's a little bit wider than what I really need it to be. Typically I would use a narrower piece, but this is what I have right now. So I'm going to cut it, but I want to cut it to my size here. So that's about right. I'm going to use these Tim Holtz scissors because they don't stick as badly, so I can kind of play with that a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it both directions. So I have two narrower strips. As small as my piece is here, I don't really need a whole lot, but I want it raised just to give it that little extra bit of dimension, and to show that right in there. So I will tell you, this is, as I mentioned, this is the first time I've used this tape, and it seems to have a really good adhesive to it. Now sometimes you wonder if the adhesive is going to be strong enough, and for this little piece of cardstock, it's definitely strong enough. So again, I want to just kind of center that, well, center it on the ribbon, but kind of have it off to the side, and then press it down, and there's the outside of our card. Really such a simple card. Outside of our card, inside of our card, and it's ready for me to write. Now, just to make it just a little bit more special, I have the envelope here, and I've already prepped it. So when I cut the inside of my card here out of this houndstooth, this kind of minty green houndstooth, I cut a piece of it and I adhered it to the envelope. Now I didn't have a strip that was wide enough to cover the whole flap, so rather than waste a piece of paper but still using as much of the paper as I can, I just kind of centered it, and then I just trimmed around the edges. So now I'll have it's just a nice little extra touch to give to it. So there we have our card. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble, and I'm hoping it'll be an encouragement to my friend. So thanks so much for stopping by today, and remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.